So in preparation for us to sew our collar onto the neckline, we actually have to sew the shoulder seam, so we have a complete neckline. Actually, before we did this too, we don't have any pockets on this jacket. If you had pockets on the jacket, you would actually sew the pockets now, so that you're just working with one piece of fabric before you sew the shoulder seams together. So just keep that in mind. So we've got a 1 centimetre seam allowance for our shoulders here. Back tack. And keep in mind too that when you're matching the shoulders, you're actually matching the shoulders at the stitch line, not at the raw edge. So don't match it like that, because then you're missing all of this extra fabric here. So cross it over and so bring the stitch lines together, not the raw edge of the actual shoulder seam. So that's one, another one here. There are shoulder seams done. So I'll press those in a minute, but before then I'll just prepare the lining pieces. So we have our front facings here. Looks very unorganized. Okay, and you'll see that when you put those together, you can see the shape of the front. So we just have to sew these two together. And again, at the shoulder here, we cross it over so that the stitch line, the 1 centimetre stitch lines match, not the raw edge. So we don't sew it like that. Sew it like this, and sew it with the lining on top as well, because even though the front facing is interfaced, it will still have more give than the lining. The lining doesn't really have any give at all. So work our way down. I don't have notches here, but on your patterns there should be at least one notch in the middle here. So we'll work to that notch and then reset from there down to the bottom. But these pieces are the same length, so they should be pretty easy to sew together. Again, like match the ends there, so we're working towards that. We know that has to match, so we're working towards that. So don't just start sewing and see where you end. Actually set the bottom, the base together, and then work towards that. Okay, so that's one done. So we've stitched that together. Our front facing there. So I started from the shoulder on the last one. This one I'm starting from the hem because I want to keep the lining on top. So just keep that in mind. And I'm matching the bottom here on the stitch line. So this is a 1 centimetre seam allowance. So remember that it's the line on the 4 that gives you a 1 centimetre seam allowance. Okay, so that's my other side here. Now this seam allowance is going to be pressed because the lining is a lot softer than the facing. The seam allowance is actually going to be pressed towards the facing, like that. So when we sew our shoulder seams, so we've got our lining here. So when we sew our shoulder seams together, we just have to make sure, actually if you stitch it this way with the facing on top, then that seam allowance automatically goes the right way anyway. So again, stitching this together, we're matching it on the 1 centimetre seam allowance here, and then that should make it easier. If you find that when you pull it across it's not matching up at the end here, there's a chance that you've got it in the wrong position at the beginning of the seam. One shoulder seam, and then the other one here. Again, match your neckline up. And make sure that that seam allowance doesn't go back this way. Okay, so I've got my lining sewn together now. Now I'll just do a quick press. All I'm going to do is press along this line here, and I'm going to press the shoulder seams open.